In the beginning of this movie, Curtis sees heavy clouds in his city. When he saw them, he thought there would be a very bad storm and rain. Suddenly, the rain starts. But the strange thing was that this rain was not of water, but of oil. Seeing this, Curtis gets scared and suddenly his eyes open. No, all this he saw was just a dream. He washes his hands and comes to the breakfast table where his wife Samantha and his daughter Hannah are. Curtis is a construction worker, whereas Samantha, his wife, teaches in a boutique and helps Curtis financially. They take Hannah to school 3 days a week because Hannah can't speak, and to communicate with her, they had to learn sign language. They were also able to treat her, which required money. At the same time, Samantha was also planning a vacation, for which she had worked and saved a lot of money. It is shown that Curtis had kept a lot of useless things in his house because he thinks that there is going to be a big destruction in his city. That's why he wants to make a shelter. He was about to fix his useless things when suddenly, black clouds appear in the sky again. There is a tsunami, and the lightning in the sky suddenly hits the ground. Because of this, Curtis's dog gets scared, breaks his rope, and bites Curtis. As soon as he bit him, Curtis woke up, and we realized this was also Curtis's dream. But the surprising thing was that in his dream, where the dog had bitten him, he was still in pain in his arm. Thinking about this, he was not paying attention to his meeting, which made his boss angry at him. Because of the many rains that came in the city, his work was delayed, and now the boss wanted all the workers, including Curtis, to work more to complete the contract on time. The meeting ends, and they all start working. While Curtis was working, he sees birds flying in the sky in a strange way. After noticing this, he asks his friend if he saw any birds in the sky. After his friend's response, Curtis understood that all these things were happening only to him. He was the only one who could see them. After a lot of exhausting work, Curtis comes to Hannah's school, where they were learning sign language. But because of the long hours of work, Curtis was not able to give time to his family, which slowed his progress in learning sign language. They leave the school for home, where it starts raining on the way. Surprisingly, this rain was not of water but of oil, and because of this rain, the van in front of Curtis gets blurry. His car crashes into something, causing an accident in which Curtis's nose starts bleeding. His daughter is also scared. Before they can do anything, suddenly, someone breaks the window of Curtis's car and takes his daughter out through the window. Curtis kept trying to save her, but the man took his daughter in his hand. Suddenly his eyes opened again, and we found out that this was also just Curtis's dream. This time, he was deeply troubled by his dreams. He looked very sick, which worried Samantha, but Curtis said, "Don't worry, if I have a normal fever, I should take Hannah to school this time." Listening to him, Samantha let him go. As soon as he left, Curtis started working. He first made a fence outside the dog's house because he had seen in a dream that this dog had harmed him. After that, while he was fixing his stuff, he noticed the door to a small basement. When he opened it and went inside, he got a new idea to make a shelter to avoid the storm. But to build a shelter, he needed a lot of money. In the evening, when Samantha comes home, she shows Curtis that she had saved a lot of money for their vacation. Curtis wanted to ask her for the money, but he couldn't because Samantha had earned it with a lot of hard work. The next day, there was another storm in his city. Hannah was looking at the storm through the window with great curiosity. When Curtis came close to her to show affection, he saw a man outside the window. Hannah was watching him closely. His intentions didn't look good, so Curtis picked up his daughter and moved away from there. This man started banging on the door of his house. The storm also started, and all the things in Curtis's house began flying in the air. Suddenly, his eyes opened. This was also his dream, and this time he was so scared that his bed also broke. He was nervous. At this time, Samantha came to his room. They were supposed to go to church today. Curtis said, "Sorry, I won't be able to go with you today. You go ahead, and I will take care of Hannah." Samantha went to church, leaving Curtis at home. After she left, Curtis changed his bedsheet and went to a library with Hannah. There, he kept searching for information about his dreams and his illness, but he didn't find anything useful. After that, he took Hannah to a grocery store and bought a lot of packed food. The next day, A worried Curtis went to the doctor for his condition. He told the doctor that he had not been able to sleep for the past 4 days. The doctor said, "This is not a big deal." Curtis then explained, "The real reason is that I am having very strange dreams. And what is even more strange is that whatever happens in the dream, even after the dream is over, I can feel it. Like in the dream, a dog bit me and I am still feeling the pain in my body." The doctor realized that he had a mental issue and said, "This time, I am giving you some medicines that will help you sleep better, but you should also see a psychiatrist." Meanwhile, Samantha was at the insurance company because she wanted to get Hannah's operation done through the health insurance from Curtis's job. Luckily, her request was approved. On the way home, Curtis also went to get his medicine and found out that he would get it for free. He was very happy to hear this. When he came home, Samantha was also happy. She told him, "You don't have to save a lot of money. Hannah's operation will be done, and we can go on a family trip easily." Curtis was also pleased with all these developments. He went to the washroom, hid from everyone, took the medicine given by the doctor, and went to sleep. That night, he had a very good sleep with no bad dreams, so he felt very refreshed in the morning, and Samantha noticed this. Curtis went to work and talked to his friend about the shelter being built in his house. Suddenly, he heard the sound of thunder and rain in the sky. When he looked at the sky, surprisingly, it was completely clear. Even his friend didn't hear the sound of thunder and rain. This bothered Curtis so much that he got sick and started vomiting. He decided to come home early from work. He was experiencing panic attacks, so he pulled his car over. There he saw a container sailing. As soon as he saw it, he got the idea that he could make a good shelter from these containers. But now was not the time for this. Curtis had to find out about the panic attacks and hallucinations he was experiencing. So he went to his mom's house because many years ago, his mom also suffered from a similar condition. She too used to get panic attacks and strange hallucinations, which eventually led her to leave the house. Curtis and his brother were raised by their dad alone. One day, they found their mom in a garbage bin, after which Curtis and his dad admitted her to a private hospital. Curtis wanted to know from his mom if what was happening to him was genetic, but at that time, his mom didn't remember anything. She didn't even remember that Curtis was her son. In other words, Curtis didn't learn anything about his condition from her. The next option was to meet a psychiatrist, but his condition was so bad that he couldn't even drive to Columbus. So he called his doctor and asked for another option. The doctor suggested he meet a consultant. This consultant listened to him well, but because she was not a psychiatrist, she could neither diagnose what Curtis had, nor tell him anything about his treatment. She advised Curtis to meet a psychiatrist. Day by day, Curtis was getting more scared. His condition was getting worse. He felt he had to make a shelter at any cost, which required a lot of money. So he mortgaged his house. After getting the money, he needed some things to build a shelter outside his house. First, a digging machine from his construction site, which belonged to his boss and company. It was against the rules to take it home and use it, but he decided to do it anyway. Curtis brought his friend with him, and they started their work. When Samantha saw this work at their house, she and Curtis started a fight. During the argument, Samantha found out that Curtis had taken a huge loan of $6,000. Hearing this, she became even more worried because they were not financially stable. Their expenses were already difficult to manage. How would they repay the loan? With tension, Samantha's condition worsened, and Curtis left her alone and went out. He was also deteriorating. He went to the washroom and took more than the usual dose of his medication, but even these medicines didn't work today. He had another scary dream that made him start screaming. Samantha woke up and, noticing this, saw blood coming from his nose and ears. She got scared and quickly called the ambulance, but Curtis refused to be examined by the paramedic team, thinking that everything was normal. After they left, Curtis realized that Samantha was very worried because of him. So he decided not to hide anything from her anymore. He told her everything, his mental condition, his dreams, panic attacks, everything that was happening to him. Hearing his situation, Samantha became very worried. Curtis assured her, "Don't worry, everything will be fine. We will go to the psychiatrist and I will get better." Curtis then went to his boss and requested to shift from his team to another team because, in his dream, he saw that his life was in danger from his friend. So he also separated himself from his friend. On his way back from work, he bought 3 gas masks for his family. After coming home, he moved the container underground, completing his shelter. While he was doing this, his brother came to persuade him that what he was doing was unnecessary and that there was no need to build a shelter like this. But Curtis didn't listen to him. At night, he had another dream in which he saw Samantha standing wet in the kitchen, looking at a knife lying next to her as if she was about to attack with it. But Curtis refuses her, and suddenly his eyes open. He got even more scared. When Samantha touched him at breakfast time, Curtis also pulled away from her. Samantha told him that his boss had come to meet him. His boss brought bad news. Because Curtis had illegally used company resources to make his shelter, he was fired from his job. Now, he no longer had the health insurance to cover his daughter's treatment. Curtis tried to explain to his boss that it was out of desperation, but his boss didn't listen and left. This bad news also infuriated Samantha because they couldn't afford to lose his job, especially since Curtis had taken a loan. With all this in mind, she slapped Curtis in anger and took Hannah away. However, this anger was temporary. She knew Curtis's condition was not good, so in the evening she brought all the money she had saved and told him to use it to pay off his loan. "I've canceled our beach trip," she said. "Regarding Hannah's treatment, I think we should focus on finding a new job so we can save money for her treatment. And you, Curtis, you really need to see a psychiatrist." Curtis agreed to her request. After that, he and Samantha left for Hannah's school dinner. At the school dinner, Curtis's friend, who had helped him make the shelter, was also present. He was upset because he lost his job due to Curtis. He didn't know about Curtis's mental condition, so he thought Curtis had cheated him. In anger, he overturned his table and screamed that a big storm was coming and that they wouldn't be safe. Samantha tried to calm him down, explaining that they would only be away for a few days. But Curtis wasn't ready for all this. He insisted that before anything else, he wanted to go on a beach trip with her, the same trip Samantha had always planned. So they went on the trip. Curtis was spending good and memorable time with his family when Hannah pointed out a storm far away in the sea. Seeing this, he got scared. This storm was exactly what he had seen in his dreams. When he looked at his wife, she also acknowledged that everything he saw was happening in reality. In the end, the mystery was solved. Curtis was actually seeing the future. The destruction he foresaw was real, and he had prepared for it. The story ends with the realization that Curtis's visions were not just dreams, but glimpses of an impending disaster.